Okay, once again, everyone, good morning. Class, good morning,
Good
class.
morning. Good
Okay,
morning,
Good
sir.
morning,
Good morning,
sir.
sir.
okay. So, our topic for, di ba, human naman ta, ang last man nato last time is about the scope of food preservation, right? We're done here.
Po, sir.
Wala pa ta,
Yes, sir.
human naman ta siguro diri.
Yes, sir, mana, sir.
Okay. So, the next lesson that we have is about lesson 2. Okay, so bear with me and cooperate if I will be asking questions. Maybe some of you can share something about their experiences, or maybe um, in the work of field. Okay, okay, it's common man ang food preservation. So the next topic is that we have is healthy tissues. Okay, it's commonly more about on the healthy tissues. Okay, so as we have it here, healthy tissues inside the food and food in their natural form resist infection and they do not harbor microorganisms. Okay? So when you are totally in kuan class, in food preservation, okay, when you have a food, if in the time of harvesting, okay, sa pagtime pag-harvest, actually, kumuingon jud ta nga, okay, sir, anong malata man ang pagkaon? Okay? Actually, guys, they have natural components. Okay, nasa sila natural components sa ilang kaugalingon. And then, basically, sa pag wala pa sila, kung wala pa na sila yung mga microorganisms that contaminates them sa sulod nila. Commonly, if there are some microorganisms, those are good microorganisms or nutrients, okay, inside the body of a fruit, for example. Okay, so on the other hand, spoilage of highly perishable foods is natural. The onset of food spoilage is rather indefinite. Okay, it is a gradual process occurring because of poor sanitation, enzymatic or chemical reaction, improper temperature control, microbial growth, or physical abuse starting from the time of food harvested, okay, slaughtered or manufactured till it is consumed. So basically, when you harvested a food, it is natural nga ma-decompose siya because built-in niya na siya mga microorganisms. But those microorganisms is good man, di ba? Pero at by the time nga mo deteriorate na siya, by the time nga mo deteriorate na siya, there are parts, okay? Because of its natural man siya, organic man siya. So natural habitat niya, natural nga system niya, ang pagkaon malata gid siya even if kabalo ta nga sa sulod niya good microorganisms or nine nutrients sa sulod niya, but ang outside factors, okay, ang outside factors should I like for example the temperature, okay, the temperature control, okay, the microbial growth, okay, the moisture, okay. So when you are in the harvest season, if you're in the harvest season, matay mo ingon ta nga, the food is really good. Okay? The food is really good siya. Nindot ka ayo ang food. Nindot ka siya, gwapa kayo pagka-harvest. But why is the reason? Nganong malata man siya? Nganong there is a specific time. And said, of course, depends on the storage also. Depends on the area kung asa ni mo ibutang ang pagkaon. Remember that in our previous discussions, okay, that there are types of hazards, right? We have the three composition of hazards: physical, okay, biological hazard, and chemical hazards. Okay, commonly, this physical and chemical hazard will also affect, okay, the deterioration of the food. But commonly, microorganisms or the biological hazards, these are the hazards that commonly affect, okay, the the spoilage of the food, okay, because of microbial components, microbial growth in that specific food. Okay, so physical changes such as bruising, or puncturing of tissue and water loss and chemical changes such as those caused by enzymes or the effect of microbial growth can make food unappealing. Okay, remember that when you are harvesting a food, okay, according to study, that when you harvest the food, automatically the supply of food nutrients will stop. So the food will depends on its nutrients nga naa sa iyahang sulod kung usay naa niya. So there are things, and there are possibilities that the food, okay, for example, pag harvest nimo na bunog, so automatically naan ni siya daot sa sulod. So that will create into an faster deterioration, okay, faster nga pagka-spoilage sa usa ka pagkaon. Okay? So the next thing is food undergo these undesirable changes in physical and chemical characteristics of food, ultimately leading to food spoilage or spoilage of food. So when you are talking about chemical characteristics of food, so there are foods nga naa siya mga chemical build-ins. Okay? Naa siya mga chemical nga build-ins, and it would also matter on the temperature. Okay? Depends on also the temperature, the environment, on how that certain chemical, okay, will react. Okay, so it will maybe change it will maybe change the appearance. It could change the physical form of the food. It could change the aroma or the smell of the food. Kabantay mo na yung mga food nga siguro kung ablihan na siya is mahumot, napay uban mo aslom or malain ang baho. Okay? And then some of it is ma-change ang color. It's because of enzymatic browning. The reaction of chemical when it with it the chemical is exposed to the air. Okay? Hello guys, still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, spoilage of food refers to the undesirable alterations in food of the food undergoes some physiological, chemical, and biological changes. So, when we are talking about this physiological, chemical, and biological changes, so let's talk about its appearance. Okay, appearance, how does it smell? Okay, kung sa may iyahang porma, so what are the nutrients nga naa niya, naabay na loss or naabay wala na loss. So when so it renders an inedible or hazardous to eat. So once there are changes, okay? For example, if nagkuan ka o ganang apple, then napayok na ang apple kanang napayok na gyud siya, na brown na gyud siya. Still kaunon paghapon ninyo.
No, sir. Dili na.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
because sometimes, okay, for example, sa mangga nga naugmaan nimo nga na-expose na nimo sa air, or maybe there are some insects or pests nga na ni kaon na ana or ni tila-tila na dito ah. So, possibilities. Okay, the deterioration of the food is faster or ang ihang spoilage. So, there is a change of its aroma, the taste, and its appearance. So, hence, in extreme cases, the food becomes totally unpalatable and unfit for human consumption. When you say unpalatable, it is the taste is dili na siya lami. Okay, because when you talk about palatable, means it's delicious. Another term for delicious and can be eaten or edible. But when you say unpalatable, it's not delicious anymore. There are changes in its taste and appearance. Okay? Hence, it is essential to process or preserve food after it is harvested or slaughtered to combat the problem of food spoilage. But, okay, but the thing here is that you can undergo food preservation na if the food start to deteriorate. Okay? For example, narancho na nga karne, imo paghihapon siyang i-food preserve, dili na. Hello, class? Narancho na nga karne. I-preserve pa di mo gihapon, dili na.
Dili na, sir.
Dili na, sir.
Mm,
Dili na, sir.
it's because once the food started to deteriorate, or there are already signs of spoilage. That means you can't preserve na the food. Maybe siguro there are some processes, new technology that can help with that, but highly recommended once the food is it's already damaged, or it's already acquiring some effects or some noticeable changes that leads to spoilage. Please, ayaw na ninyo gamitan because that can lead into food poisoning. Okay? Lisod sa kaayo, no? If you have a restaurant, okay, for example, if you have a restaurant, sige, nag-pickled kunuhay ka, pero daot na ito siya. And then, always remember that even if you undergo, okay, food preservation or food process, once there is an infection, once there is a contamination of bacteria, okay, automatically, your food nga you prepare is also contaminated. Correct? Hello? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have it here. Okay, we have it here. Undesirable changes. Okay, undesirable changes in food due to spoilage. What are the changes? Okay, what are the changes man? Unsa may mga changes sa pagkaon once nga ma-spoil na siya, once it started sa iyang deterioration process. So, food deterioration is manifested by the reduction in aroma. Okay, again, so food deterioration is manifested by reduction in aroma, flavor, textural, and nutritional values of foods. Different types of undesirable changes which occur due to the spoilage in food are listed as follows. So we have it here, the lists. Okay, so first one, change in color. Of course, ang atong giingon nato nga kuan katong enzymatic browning. Okay, a chemical reaction once the food is being exposed sa air. Okay, so it is about the deterioration or removing of its fats. So change in color. The fruit, like we have it here. So change in color. The fruit like bananas and apples turn black after storing for a long period of time and reduce the acceptability of the food. Okay? Once nga ma-expose na ang banana, ang apple sa hangin, there are chemical reactions nga mahitabo. And once there is a change of color na, there are changes po sa taste. Okay? Always remember class ga um exposure of the food sa air, especially kung mga hilaw pa ni siya and then panitanan ng mga pagkaon, automatically, there are chemical reactions na yung mga mahitabo nga chemical reactions. Commonly gud ani kanang mga panitanan nga pagkaon is ma-change ang color. Okay? Ma-change gud ang color ana nila. Number one, change in smell. Okay? Change in smell, rancid smell, or spoiled oils and fats, bitter smell, or curd smell, or sour smell, or starchy food. So, when we are trying to for example kaning harvest or slaughter a pig, so kabantay mo nga usahay after slaughtering is naa siya baho, usahay nga murag like langsi man. Okay, or usahay natay ipang harvest nga pagkaon, like after nato siya kanang kuan, after nato siya like panitan or mahiwa murag niaslo man ang iyang baho. It's because of its chemical reaction. Okay, once it is exposed to natural environment, and then once nga the food started to spoil na sad, Daghan kay isang changes nga mahitabo. Okay, first, maaslom gyud ang baho, no? Maaslom gyud ang baho. Like for example, moingon ta sa tong kanang kuan like naghimo tag pagkaon. Okay, naghimo tag pagkaon. And then moingon ta sa salad. Okay, palihog ko check sa salad kung usa pa may lami ana. Uro ko ba na manimaho o kanang kuan panos o ba na manimaho ang aslom. Kay once nga nanimaho na siyang aslom, that means panos na siya. Okay? So the other one is change in consistency. Okay? Ang consistency, for example, kaning milk. Okay? Splitting of milk. Ang milk, kung imo siyang ikanang kuan, Vitamilk or fresh milk, kung di pa ni siya panos, okay? Lami pa siya baho, lami pa siya lasa. O say, ang baho sa niya. And then the consistency. Di ba kung wa pa madaot ang milk, mura lagi siya liquid, ini-pour nimo. Pero kung madaot na gina siya, mura siya like murag magtibug-ol or mura siya murag mo sticky gamay, mura siya mag kuan ba dikit-dikit. Were you able to experience that one? Naka-experience one na class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So kana no kanang uncurdling of milk, stickiness and undesirable viscosity in spoiled cooked dal and curious and spoiled cooked vegetables. Kanang usahay maglaway-laway or usahay ka mura siya murag mo sticky. Okay, the next one is change in texture. The texture of the food. Okay, some vegetables like potato, brinjal, and carrot, okay, undergo too much softening leading to rotting. Okay, so when you on kuan ka kanang so ni tawag maghipos ka og pagkaon, wala na magisulod sa ref. Okay? Then imuha lang siyang gibutang sa gawas. So automatically ma-change yung smell, ma-change ang iyang baho, ma-change yung iyang appearance, and then mura siyang malata. Okay? Mas dali siya malata. Then ang iyang texture lahi na, humok na siya kaayo. It's because na anam na siya ka-deteriorate. The next one is change due to chemical or mechanical damage. So mechanical damage such as eggs with broken shells, mechanical spoilage of fruits and vegetables during transportation also constitute food spoilage. Okay, for example, ang kaning mga when we transport eggs, okay? When we transport eggs, like di man dyan na tumalikayan, nagka-pinky-pinky na buak ang shell sa egg. So it can lead to spoilage. Madamage ang pagkaon. Transfer of even canned goods, even processed foods na. Even processed foods sa pag-transfer ana na lumping ang lata. So, nahitabo niya na asoy chemical reaction sa sulod and what happened? Na-spoil ang pagkaon. Okay? So those are the undesirable changes in food due to spoilage. Commonly, when in general, when you are talking about undesirable changes, okay, in food due to spoilage, automatically the taste will change. Okay, always remember this one. So the change of color, the change of taste, the change of smell, its texture. Okay, naaman jud no, that we have it here: the color, the smell, the consistency, the texture, and the mechanical damage, and its the appearance. Okay, literally, it's in the appearance of the food products. Okay, or the food nga imuhang gina offer or ang food nga imuhang gi-harvest. So, sir, in food preservation mga kung ano gyud ba siya sir ang tong istoryahan dinhi when we're talking about spoilage kanila bang ning mga harvestonon pa lang or gi-harvest na or kaning mga kanang gi-process na or wala pa gi-process, both of them. Always remember that even if it's already processed, bisan pa magda-process na siya, still, that food can spoil or that food can still deteriorate. Depends on how it is stored or handled. Okay? So, the next thing that we have in here is we have factors affecting food spoilage. Unsa may mga factors di ay nganong na magka food spoilage man. Okay? Nganong madaot man ang pagkaon. So the types of spoilage of particular food item depends on a great extent on the following. Okay? The composition of food. We have it here. Composition of food. Okay? So when we are talking the composition of food, unsa may naaan nga pagkaon? What are the nutrients? Unsay naa nga chemical ana nga pagkaon? Or naa nga vitamins? So the composition of food influences its susceptibility to spoilage. For example, presence of proteins and carbohydrates, especially sugar, are preferred by microorganisms for energy source. Very few utilize fat for energy production. Actually, guys, when we are talking about the composition of the food, there are some composition of the food that help us nga dili siya ingon dali madaot. Okay? Dili siya ingon dali madaot. And then depends also, there are some foods also nga di siya dali madaot, pero once nga mapanitan na siya, dali na siya madaot. Okay? Dali na siya mo deteriorate. Depends on its composition. Okay? Unsa man niya chemical and then as an HM student, dili ta kaingon ka dig in about kaayo aning composition of each food nga naa nila as long as we know nga unsay naa nila nga nutrients, unsay naa nila nga proteins, unsay naa nila diha nga mga microorganisms. Still, we have the knowledge, but the only thing is we can't really deep dig in on its specification kung unsa na sila nga composition because dili man ta mga nutritionist, dili man ta mga microbiologist. Okay? So, number two, we have it here. Structure of food items. Okay? The structure of food items, okay? The whole healthy tissues of food from inside are sterile or low in microbial content. Skin, rind, or shell on food works as its protective covering from spoilage from microorganisms. Okay, so automatically may ta nga ang structure sa pagkaon is kani mga nanay panit. Okay, of course, ang kanang panit nila, that's are the protection. Mo nang protection nila, mo nang kung maingon ganita nga mapanitan na ang pagkaon, it should be consumed. It's because once the food is mapanitan na, okay, automatically there are bacterias or bad bacterias that will always that will infect, okay, the natural nutrients, okay, natural proteins na naa sa sulod sa pagkaon. Okay? So, kung mapanitan na siya, consume it, avoid sa spoilage. Kay kung paugmaan pa mo siya, possible gid siya mga ma-spoil. Kinaando siya yung bacteria contamination. The next one is types of microorganisms involved. Okay? So, unsa may mga naang microorganisms involved inside. So, the types of microorganisms present in food depends on its composition of food. Okay? Again, here, we can't really identify its microorganisms involved kay wala man tay di man ta maka-laboratory pud yun no, dili ta makakuan og microscope, okay? Di ta makagamit og microscope. We can do further study on that. And then if we will do study about microorganisms, it's not our major naman when we're talking microorganisms as long as we know what are microorganisms and how they functioned. Okay? Number four, condition of storage of the food. Diba, as what I've said, even if you have a good process, even if you followed everything, if you have perfectly sanitized everything, or should I say, like, you will consider that the food harvest or the process is really that safe, but always remember condition of storage of the food is very important. Why? Even if everything is okay upon process, but in the storage, if there is a problem with the storage temperature, it can lead to contamination. So, conditions of storage of food affect the growth of microorganisms. Even if the proper storage of food is done, the food loses its freshness and nutritive value if it is stored for too long. Kay kabantay mo na apod siya, kanang kuan na po siya expiration date. Kay because once nga dugay na po siya kaayo, it can still also damage the food. Okay? It can still damage the food. Mao na yung mga expiration date. Because dili man ta moingon that when we preserve the food, it would actually last forever. No, it is just stopping, or should I say delaying the deterioration of the food. It doesn't mean that it will last forever, but maybe it will last for a year. Maybe. Okay? Maybe it could last for 2 years or 3 years. Depends on the process that you are using upon its safety. Like, for example, comparing the sardines homemade and sardines made by the company, of course, sardines homemade can only last for a month commonly. But when you're talking about the company products, it could last. It could last for a year or maybe 2 years. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so be reminded always with the factors affecting spoilage. Unsa may mga factors that affects. Maybe there are so many factors that affect resulting into food spoilage, but everyone, ladies and gentlemen, it is natural. Okay, it is natural. It is natural that there is a food spoilage. It is natural that there is a deterioration. It's because we are a natural being. Okay? Ma-decompose man yun. Even kita tao. Okay? So, the next thing that we have in here is classification of food by ease of spoilage. Okay? So food are classified into three groups based on ease of their spoilage. Okay. Number one, okay, we have it here, relatively stable or non-perishable food. Okay. So food that do not spoil unless handled carefully. Example, grains, flour, sugar, and pulses. Okay. Kung may unta ka ng grains, flours, or mga sugar, so kung tarungon nato ni sila og storage, dili ni sila dali-dali ma-deteriorate, dili ni sila dali-dali malata, dili ni sila dali-dali madaot. Okay? Depends lang on how we handle them. Depends lang on how the process is kuan unsa nga process ang ato ang ginagamit. Number three, protectable or semi-perishable food. Food those remain unspoiled for a fairly long period is properly handled and stored. Example, potatoes, apples, onions. Pero once nga mapanitan na ni sila, kay once nga mapanitan na ni sila, automatically the deterioration process is mo start na. Once nga mapanitan na sila, it is still protectable or semi-perishable food. It's because you can store them. Okay? You can store them for a few weeks. Okay? In a few weeks or maybe in a month. It's because they have the protection. Naman sila panit nga protection nila and still they can survive. Number three, the perishable food. Okay? The perishable foods that spoil readily unless special preservative methods are used. Like, for example, milk, eggs, meat, fish, poultry, most fruits and vegetables. Okay. So when you are talking about perishable foods, madaot gini sila like in a few if in a few months lang yun na stocking. Okay, ang egg, madaot yun na siya. Like, you need to consume that for a week. One tray, you must consume that one in a week. Kaya mag-anam na siya ka-spoil. And then, especially milk, and especially dili refrigerated. Even if refrigerated gani, madaot manggalin na usahay siya. Basta dili ma-meet ang exact temperature. Especially meat and fish and poultry. Okay? Those are perishable foods. Hello class, napa mo diha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Naram, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Na, sir. Naminaw, sir.
Basin ba og ganang kung ano saka kuan na diha sa katugnaw nangatug ng uban.
Alay,
Kaya,
sir.
sir.
Tugnaw, sir.
Kaya
Hmm?
na, sir.
Kami kang panahon, sir.
Okay.
Nami kagak kasi kaya.
So, the next thing is we have causes of food spoilage. So may mga causes. So there are different causes when we're talking about food spoilage. Okay? So there are kuan naman no, diha naman tayo na agian ganiha nga mga reasons. Okay, this one. Factors affecting food spoilage, then undesirable changes, unsa may naka-affect niya. So here good causes of food spoilage. Let's talk about its um factors or the main reasons why do food spoil. So, nganong mas spoil man ang pagkaon? It's because there are mainly the three types of causes of food spoilage. Okay? Biological, chemical, and physical causes. So, these are the hazards. Remember, guys, nga we're talking about the hazards. So, physical, chemical, and biological. Okay, naka-remember pa mo sa meaning aning physical, chemical, and biological hazards?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So, when you are talking about physical causes, these are the physical things that can we handle. Okay, mga butang. Okay, mga butang nato diha ah. So, accessories ba ron or sa pa mga butangan diha that can cause hazards. Okay? Chemical kaning mga chemicals or mga liquids that is toxic, okay? Or hazardous. So biological, those are the microorganisms. So biological cause comprise, okay, of growth and activity of microorganisms such as bacteria, yeast, and molds. Okay, activity of food enzymes and damage due to pests, insects, and rodents. So, chemical causes. Okay, when we're talking about microorganisms, kabalo nagmuan na, microorganisms, mao ni sila ang mga bacteria. So, sa man, magduwa ang mga bacteria dito kuan sila dito, maglakaw-lakaw sila dito sa pagkaon, musuroy sila dito sa pagkaon, and that will leads into food spoilage. The next one is chemical cause includes reaction with oxygen and light and chemical reaction with food constituents. Okay? So, basically, it's on the chemical reaction, but there are other chemical side, the physical chemical, which is liquids that can harm, okay, that will also lead into spoilage. But chemical also, there is a built-in chemical that will lead into spoilage. Okay? So, the next one is physical cause consists of temperature and physical abuse. Like for example, katong buak nga itlog. Okay? Nabuak ang itlog. So that is part of a physical cause consists of temperature and physical abuse. Okay? Nabuak siya and due to the temperature changes, ni-create og molds. Once nga na ni molds, okay, nag-create og bacteria, ni-infect with bacteria, and then mo start na ka-deteriorate ang usa ka pagkaon. Sakto, class?
Yes, sir.
So, if you were able to try to check, no? If you were able to try to check, nagatuyok-tuyok ra gyud siya. Okay? Nagatuyok-tuyok ra gyud ang entire topic about contamination, food cross contamination, food contamination, the way how we process the food, the way how we handle the food, and the physical, chemical, and microorganisms factors that affect and lead to deterioration of the food and also its spoilage. So all of these factors can act together. Pwede sila magdungan-dungan. So, for example, bacteria, insects, and lights all can be operating concurrently to spoil food in a field or in a warehouse. Similarly, heat, moisture, and air at the same time can affect the multiplication and activities of bacteria and chemical activities of food enzymes. So, mo na siyang iuning class na based on our discussion sa food kitchen essentials, air time controlling and temperature controlling is very important in food processing. Not only in food processing but also in food preservation. Okay, remember, once if there is a presence of air, of course, buhi si bacteria. Okay? Would you agree with me? Okay. So, next thing that we have in here is causes of food spoilage. So, continuation paghapon siya, ha? Causes of food spoilage. So, the majority types of spoilage that occur in foods are due to microbiological, biochemical, physical, and chemical changes. These includes growth and activity of microorganisms such as bacteria, yeast, and molds. Okay. Number two, activities of food enzymes present in all raw foods promote chemical reactions which within the food affecting especially the food color, texture, and flavor. The next one is inappropriate holding temperatures, heat, and cold for a given food. Okay, gain or loss of moisture, reaction with oxygen and light causing rancidity and color changes due to the oxidative reaction or could be enzymatic browning. Okay, physical stress or abuse. Okay, damage due to pests, insects, and rodents. Last one is non-enzymatic reaction in food such as oxidation and mechanical damage. So, when we are talking about causes of food spoilage, so kanin sila ang mga reasons. These are the reasons why malata man ang usa ka pagkaon. Okay? Mauna sa lang mga rason kanong, okay, hindi ito pagka-harvest, pero kanong nalata maghapon siya. Okay? Especially, kaning mga microorganisms is dili gyud nato sila makitaan. Dili nato makitaan ang mga microorganisms. Diba? So it can seen by our naked eyes. Okay, next is cause of spoilage. Continuation of cause of spoilage. So we have it here. Spoilage due to growth and activity of microorganisms. Again, spoilage due to the growth and activity of microorganisms. So, most significant deteriorative, okay, the deteriorative changes occur in food due to microorganisms present in air, soil, water, and in on foods. So, if there are microorganisms that retains sa iyahang peel or upon harvest, it can leads to food deterioration. So, they use our food supply as a source of nutrients for their own growth, which results into deterioration of food and render our food supply unfit to consumption. Okay? So, kani mga microorganisms, mangaon man pud ni sila. So, mo na silang ang mga pagkaon nga atong ikaon, ang mga fresh fruits, once it's harvested, sila dahil na mo take over. Basta naanay, pamaagi nga maka-take over sila, of course, mo deteriorate yun imong pagkaon and then malain or malata. Okay? So the next thing here is microbes spoil any food in many ways. Okay? By increasing their number, by utilizing nutrients, by producing enzymatic changes, by contributing of flavors, by breakdown of a product, and by synthesis of new compounds. The three major types of microorganisms which cause food spoilage are bacteria, yeast, and molds. Okay, so when we are talking about microbes or microorganisms, so these microorganisms can lead into food spoilage. It's because they use the nutrients, they use the proteins as their food. Okay? Mao na ilang kuan makabantay mo if magtan-og mo og mangga, usahay mo kunot, usahay dali ra kaayo mahinog. And then another thing is dali ra sad siya magkapuntik-puntik og itom. Okay. So mao ni siya ang bacteria, mao ni siyang yeast, and then mao ni siya ang molds.